Jordan Bohannon, Jared Stansberry. It's Jared and J-Bo on Iowa Everywhere. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Yo, welcome into the podcast. It's on Iowa Everywhere. What's up, J-Bo? What's going on, man?
Well, it's good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well, dude. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day in central Iowa. There's nothing like what could possibly have gone wrong in my life, really, in the last, 7 days. Like nothing has been, everything's been good. I'm waking up, I'm breathing. My family loves me. My dog loves me. I got no complaints,
I knew this was going to be how it was going to happen this week after the game. How it was going to go down. I knew you're going to pull this whole positivity card. I'm down to play a positivity card, but let's play the positivity card your whole life, not just 1 week.
Not just this 1 week after Iowa State gets their asses kicked by Iowa in the Cyhawk basketball game. Yeah, I try and keep that mindset, but especially keep it in these situations. Man, that was just a disaster of a game for Iowa State. I think I don't even know how much analysis I have. I didn't even do a podcast after the game on Cyclone Fanatic because I was like, man, they played so bad that I don't know. That feels like if they can play worse than that, then it's gonna be a long year. That type of situation.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to really describe, like to summarize the game. I think Iowa just played really great basketball, and Iowa State played really bad basketball.
Yeah,
their offense, I think. But we talked about that with Iowa State, that their offense was going to be a key component. If they're able to get that moving, that they're going to be an elite team. And if they don't, they're going to struggle. So, and against a team like Iowa, you're going to have score points. Mm-hmm. You can hold them. You can hold them to low point games, but those low point games are going to be high points for those teams that are playing great defense. So you're going to have to score against Iowa to win.
Right, and that's where you get down 15-0 to start the game, and Iowa State was getting fine looks, they just couldn't make a shot. And it's like you get some of those looks around the rim and trying to get some of those bunnies, like you just got to put one in, man. There comes a point where it's like someone just has to make something, you can't turn the ball over, you can't get called for a foul, like just make a basket because this thing's going to get out of control really fast. And then all of a sudden it's 22-2 and you're just, the game's basically over at that point,
And you have some guys on your team on Iowa State making a three and then saying he just needs one to go in, and then the next trip down. Oh, man. I've seen a lot of crazy shit in basketball, but that's up there for crazy shit I've seen. I wish him the best too. I know he's a great shooter. Yeah. I hope he figures it out, but man, that's just not a good look when you're losing by 20 and that happens.
It's like I think I texted you this during the game, dude. Like I've never seen someone who their shot can look so pure 1 second and then they'll come back the next second and it's like you're putting it off the side of the hoop or something. I've literally never seen anything like it, and it's been for 2 years. And that's why I keep saying if you can figure out a way to find some level of consistency from him, like this team can be a lot better. But it's just like, man, the highs are pretty good, but the lows are really low, and it's how do you find that middle ground,
And we touched on that too last week before the game. We were talking about Gabe Kalsher and how he needed to be consistent. And he needs to shoot the ball well in order to beat these big-time teams. And when Grill's not going, Gabe isn't scoring, who else are they going to look to get a bucket? It's hard when you have two guys that are set in stone as scorers. Obviously, they're great defenders too, but they need to score the ball for them to be able to compete and make deep runs in March.
Right. You just need one of those two. Like every night you need one of those two guys to be good for you. It's like you don't need them both to be great every night, but it's like if you can get one of those guys to be good, and then Jaren Holmes has I think shown that he's going to be pretty good most nights. And then I think we're going to continue to see more from Tamin Lipsey. It seems like every game that they play, he becomes more aggressive in trying to get to the rim and finish around the rim, and he finishes really well around the rim for being a freshman point guard. But in that Iowa game, the thing that I was so shook by was, Philip Bracha had to play like the game of his life,
Grown man.
Yeah. That was just an incredible performance from him. And Iowa State, you go into that game, like I feel good about Iowa State's front court, and he overwhelmed both of those guys for the entire game. Like you just got to tip your cap to somebody sometimes. It's like, man, you played well, you came out and did the thing.
Yeah, I have two things too to pick about the game. I think the first one, it almost felt like Iowa State was really hesitant, and I don't know how to explain it. They were very, very lackadaisical. Like it was one of those. It felt like a game. Like when I was watching it, it felt like a mid, like February, late February type conference game from how Iowa State was playing. Iowa played well without Chris, but how I was watching is like this is like a grinded out, like it feels like a lot of guys are banged up. They don't really want to play that night. Like it felt like that kind of feel to the game. I don't know why, but I mean my experience is playing in college basketball. You have those games every now and then, but man, for that to be a rivalry game, that's kind of my other point. Like it's almost like this rivalry has been so lopsided these last 4 to 5 years now. Like it's kind of crazy to think about. There's not really been a close game that I've been in those last 6 years. And
both ways. Yeah, both ways. Even when Iowa State's won, it hasn't been close. Yeah.
Yeah. It's bizarre. Like you looking back on the last 6 to 7 years now, there hasn't been a close game that's come down to a couple possessions.
Well, the last one would have had to have been 2016 then. The game when
2016,
when Utah had 30 in the first half.
Yeah, and then when we came back, 2017, we beat them by I think 13, 14. 2018, we went to their place. That was a closer game. I do remember. I remember they pulled away.
I would say the final margin might not have been very close, but it was a close game most of the night. I remember because that Iowa State team wasn't very good either.
Yeah, but that was like the last close game in a Cyhawk rivalry, which is insane to think about because it should be a competitive game. You would think there'd be a lot more closer matches than what's.
How close was it that 2018 game? That was like a fairly close game, but I think you guys won by double digits in the end, didn't you?
The 2018 or 17 game?
The 18 game with when Iowa State had Mariel Shayok, and the game when you say Steve Prohm assaulted you.
Oh, that was 2017 at home.
No, it was 2018.
With
2018. No. That was with Mariel Shayok and Michael Jacobson and those guys when there was the scuffle at the end of the game.
I think you're getting it mixed up.
No, I'm 100%
no.
Yeah.
2016 was my first.
Yeah, it was your first one with Monte and all those guys. And then 2017 was in Ames, and 2018 was when Iowa State had Shayok, Weiler Babb, all those guys. Yeah.
I get you. I mean, no one still talks about that.
When Steve Prohm was playing peacemaker, and everybody made it out that he'd been the problem.
I mean,
one of the best guys in the game. One of the best guys in the game. He's the problem.
I had 2 hands by a college coach on my body. Opposing head coach. I feel like it was hardly talked about.
You should have came out in the media after. I was afraid for my life, bro. I was afraid for my life. From Steve Prohm.
In my arms, like I didn't know what to do. I panicked. I peed my pants. Now I'm
salute to you for not swinging. Instantly. Salute to you.
What we're getting down to is prom has haunted my life for the rest of eternity. I'm scared.
Oh man! Shout out to Steve Prohm. This team's been playing pretty well here these last couple weeks down in Murray. It'll be interesting when they come up here and play Drake in a couple weeks. But no, I mean, I like. How sustainable do you think that this game that performance was for Iowa? How much of that carried over you felt like into Sunday against Wisconsin?
0. I didn't see any carryover, to be honest. To not lie though, they're playing
my Scentsy thing. This is not me smoking. This is my Scentsy thing. It was my Scentsy.
Oh no, we got a little vape puffing over there.
Yeah, right. Just right here, over here on the side.
No, they played really well without Chris Murray. I think the ball movement has been really, really great with this stretch with Chris sitting out. And I think that says a lot about the guys that are coming in, stepping up, that they're not trying to force the issue. They're trying to play as a team and pull off important victories as a team instead of being selfish and trying to do it your way, which I think is important down the road when there's going to be injuries. There's going to be guys that have off nights that guys are going to have to come in off the bench and step up and play really well. So from that aspect, it was really good. But I don't know. I guess at Wisconsin, they just played exactly into how they wanted to. They didn't. I feel like there's little carryover from Iowa State. Obviously, Wisconsin and Iowa State are two great defensive teams. They play differently, but yeah, it's. I think they're gonna have to find a way to be locked down on their scouting report. 1 and 2, they're gonna have to continue to shoot the ball well from 3 to be able to compete against high level teams like they did against Iowa State. They shot the ball well from 3. Connor stepped up and hit a few, and
Yeah, that was the one I didn't know. I mean, they shot like 60% from 3.
yeah,
You know, it's like how sustainable is that specifically? But then, I mean, the thing I was sitting there watching the game, I'm like, they're doing everything that you and I talked about last night, as far or that on Wednesday night about what they needed to do in the game. You know, as far as making that skip pass to the corner, they were getting that through and doing a great job of not turning the ball over. And they were just doing a good job of finding the right shot, not the easiest ones, and they just kept working the ball. And it's like that's why I say you got to give them credit. They came out and executed, and that was encouraging to me. It's like, that they can do it.
yeah.
It's just like, how much can you stack games like that? And at least now, I don't think they really play anybody very good this next week, but you hope to get Chris back. I saw this morning in a couple of weeks. Hopefully back by, I think Indiana comes to Iowa City on like January 5th or something like that. If you can get him back by then I feel like you got to feel pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to have to start. They're already 0-1 in conference, and that's killer.
Yeah.
Are they 0-1? Yeah. Or are they 1-1 or 0-1? They're 0-1. They've only played one Big Ten game. So that's tough. You're starting out already down a game, and I would be willing to guess that the team that wins the Big Ten is gonna be around 6 to 7 losses in the Big Ten, which is not out of the ordinary. But you're gonna have to string a couple games together to be in contention right from the start. You can't start 0-3, 0-4, or you're gonna be struggling.
Well, I was just gonna say, now that I'm looking at this schedule, this is a little bit more interesting than what I had expected. Southeast Missouri State on Saturday, that's an easy win. Eastern Illinois next Wednesday, that's an easy win. But then the following Thursday, they got to go on the road to Nebraska, and then go on the road to Penn State, and then you have Indiana coming home on January 5th. So that Nebraska game looks a hell of a lot more difficult right now than what it did 2 weeks ago, and then even I think Penn State's been playing pretty good ball too. I mean, they're all the way up to number 33 on KenPom. Just got to win over Illinois, kick the shit out of Illinois on Saturday. Yeah. I mean, that definitely, if you can have him back by the Nebraska game, you would prefer to have that,
But I mean, you're looking at that schedule. It's hard to win, let alone 2 games in a row in the Big Ten Conference, but 3 to do that consistently 3 nights in a row, and on top of traveling away game back home to one of the top teams in the Big Ten. That takes so much energy. That takes so much grit to, come off a loss. Let's say they lose to like a Nebraska, they drop one to Penn State. Now you're 0-3 in the conference. You're struggling for your identity. You're fighting for your life for postseason play at that point. So they're gonna have to. It's just like this stretch. If they were to lose, if they lost all 3 games to Wisconsin, Iowa State, and Duke, they would have been a very.
It would have been an uphill battle for you.
It would have been I was trying to find the right words. It wouldn't be. I feel like they've gathered their identity. They're in this. They're not searching for their identity anymore. They're realizing who they are as a team. Right now, they don't know exactly what that is yet. But for them to beat Iowa State and then come around and go into overtime Wisconsin, I think that shows a lot about what they can do. Duke game was a disaster, but they can compete at that level.
All our conversation about Iowa State and Iowa men's basketball are brought to you by our friends at Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails up in Ames. Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails is the place to go before and after Iowa State home games or for game watches during Iowa State road games. Sunday night, the Cyclones playing back at home against, who they playing? Western Michigan. Stop on out there at Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails at 316 Main Street in Ames with an awesome Southern-inspired menu with a great collection of burgers, sandwiches, wings, and Caroline's famous fried chicken. That's at Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails, 316 Main Street in Ames, the sponsor of all of our Iowa State men's basketball, Iowa men's basketball conversation here on the podcast. Iowa State's in a similar boat, though, when you look at their schedule to start Big 12 play. This is our first 2 weeks of Big 12 play. Home against Baylor on New Year's Eve, at Oklahoma, at TCU, and then home against Texas Tech. And then you go to Kansas, host Texas, to Oklahoma State, and then back home against Kansas State. There's not a single bad team in that stretch. Not one.
No. That is – I did not know that was their schedule coming up for Big 12 play. But have they played a Big 12 game yet?
No, not yet. They don't start Big 12 play till the 31st. Everybody plays.
Are you guys still in 18? How many conference games?
Yeah, it's double 18? Round robin. Yeah, the 18 games. That's one of the things that's going to suck when they go to 14 teams next year, is that the double round robin goes away, and that's so much fun. Like, it's just so fun knowing you're going to get the return trip with everybody you play.
Well, I would imagine they might go to 20 games like the Big Ten. If they,
yeah, I think that's the plan. And there's going to be a protected rival or something. You're going to play everywhere. I think I'd heard Iowa State's will be BYU. So every year you'll play a home and home with BYU. And then, I'm sure they'll play home and home with like Kansas and Kansas State, those teams that they've been playing forever too. That's
a tough stretch though. But the same thing that we're talking about with Iowa, if they start towing the line to 0-2, 0-3, like that is damaging to your team to start off that slow. And it is incredibly hard to get yourself off of that hill and find the top. It is incredibly hard and incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I mean, after the first 3 weeks of January last year, Iowa State was 2-5 in Big 12 play with a 4-point win over Texas Tech, a Texas Tech team that had been depleted by COVID completely. And then they beat Texas at home. And it was like, you're sitting there and you're like, holy cow, man, this month of February is going to be even worse, because then they lost 4 more in a row against Kansas, Texas, West Virginia, and Kansas State. And it was like, there's just no relief, It's every single night. If you're not bringing it, you're going to be down bad, And you got to be able to get at it from the jump. And I mean, of those first however many games that I read for Iowa State, it's like, I mean, I maybe would lean Iowa State on 2 of them, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'll look at Iowa's schedule, what it would be for them.
Yeah,
I'd lean Iowa for Nebraska. I'd probably lean Iowa still, even at Penn State. I don't know what you think of that, but
Penn State, I'll tell you what, playing at Penn State, there's no one at those games, but for whatever reason, it is incredibly hard to win at Penn State. Penn State has always been known to play a methodical type basketball game at their home games. Shrewsbury is a really great coach. I think he has Penn State heading in the right direction. But, man, for whatever reason, teams consistently struggle year in and year out at that place. It is impossible to win. Honestly, it is probably one of the toughest places to play in the country, let alone not having fans there. I don't know if that's a factor in itself, but you just can't. You can't buy buckets there. You can't. They make everything at their home arena. It is just incredibly hard.
Yeah, and so I don't know. That's maybe a toss-up, but Indiana at home probably can win that. Rutgers on the road, that's tough. But then there's 3-game stretch of Michigan, Maryland, and Northwestern. If you can come out of that 3-0, I mean, you're sitting in a damn good spot right there.
I mean, you're talking a Michigan team. They're very solid. Maryland's one of the best teams in the conference. There's no leeway in either of the Big 10 and Big 12 on any night.
There's no leeway, man. It's just it is relentless. All right, let's talk about this Chris Beard story. I imagine most people listening by now know the basics of the story. Chris Beard arrested on 3rd-degree felony, just domestic assaults of a family or household member, I think is the actual correct charge. But regardless, was arrested Monday morning. He's out. He's been suspended by Texas indefinitely. Didn't coach in their game the other day, but we don't have much more details other than that. Anybody who's read the arrest affidavit that was released Monday afternoon knows that this is a very difficult story and is going to be one that will probably – I mean, I don't know how Chris Beard can ever coach another game in Texas. That's where I'm at right now from an absolute baseline. I don't know how they could ever conceivably put him back out there as their head coach. And trust him to lead young men after this.
Oh, it's incredibly damaging to not only the team, but the program that you're hiring. This is why I still have, much as I talk shit about the NCAA and universities and how they've handled college athletes through the years, I do have a lot of respect because I think there is a good amount of coaches out there that are very respected in their profession. Obviously, there's a lot of shady guys, but it's incredibly hard for these administrations to find a coach that they want to lead these 18 to 22-year-olds into not only winning basketball games, but be great young men and women for those universities, respectfully. So it's incredibly hard, and this is damaging to Texas. I would imagine their season is going to take quite a turn with all the distractions around them, which is a shame because they have a really great basketball team this year. And I don't know where they're going to go from here. They can't have him as a coach anymore. I would be downright shocked. But with as much money that's in athletics, I think they're going to do everything they can to try to make it work. I would imagine that, which is crazy to think. But
yeah,
I wouldn't put it past.
It's horrible because it's like there's going to be people who defend it and say that whatever, he wasn't the aggressor or whatever. He said he had those audio tapes. He wouldn't show them to the police, but he said he had these audio tapes that proved that he was not the aggressor. It don't matter, man. It don't matter.
You can't hit
you put your hands on a woman, dude. Like, and that's what I didn't when that arrest affidavit came out, to me, if the police officers can go there and witness these injuries, it does not matter at that point what it's like. If these things look fresh and this clearly just happened, what other thing could have happened? Clearly it happened, and that's what I if anyone tries to defend that or defend anybody after that, then that means that they are so misguided in where they're coming from, because it's not about basketball. It's not about money. It's not about winning basketball games. How many good basketball coaches are there on this planet? Thousands. Thousands. It's like, you found one who might not be the best person. Go and find a new one. You have all the money in the world to go find a new one. But you can't accept this, and you can't let this be propped up by your program. But it's made even worse by the fact they have a player who has been charged with basically the same thing, but a misdemeanor version of it, who has played in every game for them. Like, that does not make any sense. That's so ass backwards in 2022. And I think that we got to be better than this, man. Like, this college basketball, people need to be better than this, than to allow what has clearly taken place. There's already considerable amount of evidence saying that it's taken place, and to put those people on the floor or put those people back on the sidelines, I think would be an incredible mistake, just for general humanity, I suppose.
And I think this is where I kind of touch back on the shady parts of college sports. Obviously this stuff has happened. It continues to happen, but this goes along with the amount of money. Like, if you look at just Chris Beard as an asset rather than a human being, which is what Texas is basically doing right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you hire someone, you're looking at him as an asset for your program, for your university. And he is making a shit ton of money for Texas to coach them to a basketball game to win. And when you're paying a guy like that amount of money, you're going to do whatever you can, not only to try to keep him so you don't have to buy him out, and two, you're going to do everything you can so he continues coaching, obviously. So this goes along with what I was saying before. I think Texas is going to do everything possible not to fire him. And I would not be shocked at all if he might coach at the end of the year with this still going on, with this allegations. And it's not even allegations. Like, he got arrested. Like, he was charged. But I wouldn't be shocked if he coaches at Texas still.
Man, that would just make me sick, dude. It would make me sick to my stomach, I think. Man.
And the crazy part is, I'm going to touch on the NCAA. The NCAA really doesn't do anything off this, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, they're not going to handle this. They're going to give it all to the program, the University of Texas. Like, they're going to have
the crazy thing is, they won't do anything about this. and they just put down show cause penalties for those 2 assistants from Arizona.
Exactly.
Book Richardson's never going to get another job. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. They're more worried about paying a college athlete rather than there's sexual assault allegations going on with coaches countless everywhere. There's athletic departments that have been caught. Michigan State has been caught doing this kind of stuff. The trainers there, and NCAA won't continue to handle that. They leave it all to the universities, and nothing ever happens with NCAA. It's ridiculous.
well, in fairness, the NCAA did probably really kind of fuck up the whole Penn State deal. So I think they've probably taken some steps back on that. They're like, yeah, maybe we're not the ones to adjudicate these things. But it is like, that's what this morning when that stuff came out about Arizona, that I just sit there and I'm like, I don't know if Sean Miller should have been in any trouble. It feels like he probably should have been, you know, but the fact that Richardson, who again will probably never coach again in college basketball, regardless of the fact that he's got a 10-year show cause penalty on his record now. And then Mark Phelps, the former coach at Drake, that he gets a 2-year show cause penalty. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like basically a slap on the wrist. It is what it is. But it's stupid, you know? Like, why even do a punishment? Why even do a punishment at that point? If you're going to say that there's no control over the program or anything like this, your assistants are out here doing that. Anybody who tells me that a head coach does not know that shit's going on is so fucking naive. It's not even funny. The head coaches know everything that's happening inside their program. Every single thing that's happening inside the program, the head coaches know. And so no one can convince me that a guy like Sean Miller, who has proven to be a good basketball coach, did not know what was going on inside of his program. That's just, and how you don't get in trouble, I don't know. Makes no sense.
I still think that just lays a foundation of how poorly a job the NCAA has done for these schools, not only to enforce laws, not laws, but enforce rules, but also laws too. That's been happening. There's zero health and safety protocols that are technically enforced by the NCAA, which is asinine. Like, I don't even know how that's even legal. That should not be legal. And on top of it, obviously they run a monopoly, so they can do what they want. But just touch on like the Arizona situation. I mean, you look at Louisville, they literally had NCAA lobbied for FBI to search into what was happening with college athletes being paid by the Louisville head coach. I think it was with Bowen, that situation. And guys did jail time for that. Like, they're more concerned about throwing coaches in jail.
There are multiple people still in jail because of that. Yeah.
Talking about paying a college athlete rather than health and safety and sexual allegations and domestic violence. Like, how is that even? That's not even funny anymore. Like, we're getting to the point where this is ridiculous and this is why I continue to put blame on NCAA, because they have allowed this pathway to happen by schools putting everything under the rug. And then when things get worse, they have to bring it out in the public, and it's at a worst time possible.
And the worst part is that you look at a guy like Bowen, like, has been through hell and back even to get to where he's at right now as a professional basketball player, you know, because he didn't even get an opportunity to play in college after that because of what happened with him in Louisville. Meanwhile, Rick Pitino's back coaching at Iona, and it's like nothing happened, you know? Right. And, I mean, meanwhile, Louisville is also like the worst program in college basketball right now, and legitimately is going to lose every single game unless something incredibly drastic happens that changes that. But it's like, do they really feel like they've been punished at the end of the day? You know, I don't know. Probably not. They had to take their banner down. Everybody remembers it happened. You know, it's like, that doesn't matter at the end of the day. And yet some young people's lives were completely derailed because of it. Just makes no sense.
Yeah. And I again, still going, that's a great point too, talking about Louisville, because I think I'm putting all the blame on NCAA. I think NCAA, I do think they drug that school down. They technically, I mean, really nothing was done without obviously the banner going down, but I mean, what else happened? But I think they drugged that school down, and the kids in that program are ruined for the next few years because of what the NCAA did to them and how it was handled. And now you see a team that's not even competing. They're the worst college basketball team in the entire country right now.
Well, and really at the end of the day, how much of the stuff that goes on or went on that gets people in trouble, or a lot of even the things that are still happening, how much of that do you feel is really about that and not just about people with money who want to it's about, I don't even know the right way to put it, greed of the adults in the room more than it is about actually helping kids. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're
Yeah.
right. It's incredible. I mean, and I always say this: if adults want to pay players, let it happen. I mean, we see NIL happening. They're trying to find loopholes to still pay players. Just pay the players. The more we can be transparent with everything, I think the better in college sports. And what right now everything's becoming out in the public now, that because it's going to have to with FBI investigations that's happened in the past. NIL is a thing now, and they're trying to find loopholes with college athlete compensation. But all the other crazy shit that's going on in college sports as well is bringing everything to the limelight right now. And I feel like it continues to make a worse case for the NCAA for what they've been doing for punishing college kids and not helping them. And they're basically not doing anything about adults that are technically breaking the rules in the NCAA, but really is that really a law that they should be in trouble for at the end of the day? I don't know.
And it's again, I don't think it's about the kids. It's
Yeah.
not about helping the kids, to an extent. And I'm sure there are people out there who are doing it for the right reasons. But I'm thinking of like when you see the thing about how quarterbacks in the SEC are all worth however much money, and it's some astronomical amount of money, $250,000 or whatever, to these collectives, and it's like a completely arbitrary number that's just like pulled out of thin air that this is what these guys are worth, and it's like, okay, cool. But who are the people that are bidding on this? And are they bidding on it because it's like, yeah, we think this guy right here, we want to do the right thing for him and give him his $250,000? Or is it because Alabama just paid $150,000 for this kid over here, and you guys are like, yeah, well, we're gonna fucking stick it to Alabama and we're gonna give him double,
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I don't know how much of it's about the competitiveness of like, I want to one up other people, and that's why I'm going to do these things, or how much of it's because like, oh, I actually care about helping athletes and wanting to do the right thing for athletes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think NIL collectives is something that I personally wasn't expecting, even advocating for all the years that I did and getting passed. It kind of shocked me to have all these things pop up. I think there's going to be regulations in the future with everything. I hope there is, because I don't necessarily like the schools being so tied to these college athletes still. I feel like obviously it's great because they're getting paid money, but at the end of the day, that value they're getting is nothing, nowhere near what they're worth still. It is not even close to what some of these people should be getting paid by athlete if there's revenue sharing occurring with TV media rights and revenue that occurs that they bring in from the schools as well. So there is so much more stuff that needs to be done to protect these athletes.
Yeah, and I think there'll be like a way that the market just like eventually settles, I think, where it's like, we have a good idea of, okay, this is what, because people have to make bad investments before you realize that they're bad investments, like we don't know what someone is worth until all of a sudden you sit there and it's like, okay, well, we probably fucked up that one, and that just takes time, just as part of the process. But it's, again, my concern is that I think a lot of these people don't care about the kids. I don't think they care about what can I do right by whoever, Tennessee, whoever it is that I'm trying to help that institution, which again is the ones that have been helped by everything for a very long time, more than I'm trying to help do what's right for student athletes.
Yeah, I think it's been like that since the start,
since the dawn of time. Yeah, it's never been about the kids. It's been about, how am I going to get the best players for my team?
Yeah, and it's just shifting. It's just shifting from a scholarship standpoint, and it's shifting to outside
scholarship
boosters
and cash in a McDonald's bag.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Gold Trans Ams.
Right. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes up. I think in a few years it'll get settled, and once there's revenue sharing occurring in sports, which will be in a couple of years, I would imagine. But I think that'll drastically shift NIL, and what everyone is exactly worth will get what they deserve.
I like how we got from Chris Beard to
that was crazy.
to this. That was a weird transition, man.
That was like Texas, a YouTube. Like you click on one YouTube video and then you go all the way down a loophole.
Wikipedia rabbit hole. Yeah, Texas will be interesting to follow here. I'm gonna look at their schedule over the next couple of weeks because they've got Stanford on Sunday, Louisiana on Wednesday, Texas A&M Commerce on in two weeks.
But it's a great point because you look at
Man, their schedule is easy compared to Iowa State's to open Big 12 play, dude. Holy cow.
yeah.
Man, at Oklahoma, home against Kansas State, at OSU, home against TCU and Texas Tech, at ISU, at West Virginia, home against Oklahoma State.
I did think it was crazy to touch on Chris Beard again. I kind of forgot to say this at the start. It's crazy how they didn't suspend him until like an hour before the game.
Yeah,
He was arrested.
what the hell is that? Like who? And
But they're gathering information and evidence. Like he was arrested. Like he wasn't just a cop didn't show up to the house and
there are no circumstances.
They arrested the guy.
There are no circumstances under which a basketball coach should post bail and then post the starting lineup in the same day. No chance.
Man.
0% chance. You know, it's like, wasn't there a guy? There was someone who played in the NBA who got arrested the day of a game and then played in the game that night.
Oh,
it was like Vernon Maxwell or something like that. I want to say, something. Yeah. I think it was something like that. But no, that was. I mean, I think there were reporters at the arena like 2 hours before the game, and they're like, "Who is the coach?" You know, and then all of a sudden, that guy, the Coach Terry, whatever I can't remember what his first name is. He came out and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the head coach tonight." And that's it.
They almost lost.
And they did almost lose. Won in overtime. I don't think they're probably gonna lose anytime soon here, though. Coming up. All right. R.I.P. Mike Leach. That's been fun to watch. I mean, it's not been fun to have to mourn his passing, but seeing the videos and everything that people have been posting here over the last several days, just a treasure, dude. Like a treasure in college athletics that I feel like he would have been really fun to play for and be in his program and just to be around every day and learn from.
He seemed just like a great guy all around, not only on the field, but off the field and everything. I feel like obviously whenever someone passed away, you're going to remember all the good times, but man, there's been so much like support around this man and everything that he's inspired, not only for the players' lives, but I mean, you just go on Twitter and you see everything that people are tweeting about, like just little stories and talking about their experiences with him. Like that's incredible that man had so much impact on so many people, not only just his athletes, but friends and family. And you just go down the line, reporters that ever had interacted with him. It's insane. Yeah.
No one seems to have had a negative interaction with him. It's like everything you hear is this guy was literally the coolest guy ever.
And that was before he passed away too. Like people would say that. I mean, he was literally a national treasure. You're right. Even before his death. And man, that's I had one of my friends from Cedar Rapids area. He played football for him, and man, I just see the stuff he like retweets and talk about when he was tweeting while he's playing under him. That just looked like a dream to play under a coach like that.
Yeah, you can tell he cared about people, and he just always had fun. That was what I liked about it. He just was like, he just loved life. It's like, and he was just always curious. So like, stay curious. If you can stay curious, you can go a long way. Yeah, we're gonna talk about a couple other college basketball teams here. Creighton has lost 5 games in a row after starting out 6-0 and starting the season ranked in the top 10. They don't have Ryan Kalkbrenner, or at least they haven't had Ryan Kalkbrenner the last couple of weeks. But this has been like the month from hell for Greg McDermott's team. Lost to Arizona and Maui, lost to Texas on the road in Austin, got beat by Nebraska in Omaha for the first time since 2004, lost on a neutral floor to BYU and to Arizona State. And they cannot shoot to save their fucking lives right now, man. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn here over these last couple of weeks. As a team, they are shooting 34% from 3 as a team, but man, it has not been near that good over the last couple of weeks.
Crazy.
I guess they shot 40% the other night. They shot 40% the other night.
I don't know, dude. I had them as being – I still think they're going to win the Big East, but –
You think they're going to beat – you think they're going to beat UConn?
I still think they're going to win the Big East regular season title. But –
I don't know about all that.
It's a hot take. I know it's a hot take. I still believe that.
I think UConn's the best team in the country right now, in my opinion.
I would. I still like Houston a lot. Houston, Arizona, UConn are up there.
Purdue.
Alabama, Purdue. I mean, I think there's 8 teams that should be considered as number ones. Mississippi State's really good.
Man, that's a random one. Mississippi State being up there
I
in the
watched them.
conversation. Ben Howland, man.
Yeah, I watched them against Minnesota. They're some dogs. They're gonna be a tough out in the NCAA tournament. But
Iowa State played them in the Big 12 SEC Challenge a couple years ago, and I think there was a point where Iowa State was down like 45 points.
They're good. They're really good. They got some athletes this year. But I think that's why basketball's so great this year too, because there's not a I feel like we've said that the last couple of years, but there's not a certain team that really sticks out. I thought it was going to be Houston, but Houston got knocked off already. But yeah, I still think.
But even these last couple of years, like you think about it, it's like, man, I feel like at this time last year, Baylor was way better than everybody else.
Right.
Gonzaga was way up there. Like they're way better than everybody else. 2 years ago, it's the same thing. Gonzaga's like way better than everybody else, you know? And it's all just a kind of a collision course for some of those teams, even though a couple of them tapered off there later in the year. But like this year, I feel like there's a bunch of teams that could win the national championship. I don't know if there's ever been more teams that I sat there and I'm like, yeah, I could see a path for them to win 6 in a row, you know?
I could see a lot. Yeah, I could see a lot of 10 to 12 seeds making deep runs in the NCAA tournament this year. I think it's one of those years where we'll see a lot of 14-over-3 upsets. There's just a lot of great mid majors this year. There's a lot of great high majors that haven't been necessarily elite, but they've always been pretty damn good that can pull off a deep run this year too. But yeah, going back to Creighton, I think they still have a chance to make a deep run. They have all the right pieces, but they're all out of sorts. I don't know.
They would have won that game at Texas if they'd made like 2 more 3-pointers.
Right. And they've lost to good teams. Like you can't knock it out. Obviously, they need to win games to be great, but they've lost a really great team. So I'm worried about them making a deep run, but I still think they can do it.
The great teams run does not stop because they start Big East play on Friday night against Marquette. They got to play Butler, DePaul, Seton Hall, and then UConn January 7th out in
all those are winnable. UConn's going to be they can knock off all those first 4 teams, really.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think they can beat all 4 of those teams, and 3 of those games are at home too. Yeah. So yeah, they play on the road on Friday and then don't go on the road again for 2 weeks. Let's talk about Nebraska too, really quick. We just talked on Creighton, and I mentioned it before. Nebraska got a win over Creighton for the first time since 2004. They've lost 2 games in a row here since then, but they didn't have Sam Griesel, who's their one of their best players for the loss to Indiana, and then took Purdue to overtime on Saturday. Got to give Fred some credit, man. This is a much different kind of team than Fred's ever played with at any time. I mean, even at Iowa State, and then definitely in his time at Nebraska. It seems like he's figured out that he could not play the way he wanted to before in the Big Ten and sustain success.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different feel to the game. You can't take your Big 12 schemes and your NBA schemes that he's been doing and apply them every night in and night out in the Big Ten. I think he's realized that towards the end of the year, this last year and this year. But I'm happy for him, man. I'm one of his biggest fans, dude. I've always really respected that guy and appreciated what he's done for the game of basketball. I hope Nebraska does really well in the Big Ten this year because he deserves it and that program deserves it too.
Ken Palm currently has them going 3-17 in the Big Ten, but
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I would say I don't think that will be what happens. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be like a tournament team, but they're going to at least be competitive, you know, every night. I would imagine, as long as they can stay healthy.
They have a team. They have a really good team this year.
It just always felt like his teams, these first couple teams that he's had, were way too small to play in the Big Ten. You know, it's like he tried I even think that some of those past couple teams he's had would have been small to play in the Big 12. The way that the Big 12 is now. The Big 12 10 years ago was a little bit different. It was much more finesse and things like that. But it's like the Big 12 is more like the Big 10 and just being a meat grinder conference of defensive teams and things like that now than being we're going to spread the floor and create mismatches and give you ISO situations. It just doesn't happen much in either of those leagues.
Yeah, part of me wishes Big Ten was more of a offensive dominating conference, you look. There's always the top defensive teams are always out of the Big Ten. Usually, some of them are. Usually, Michigan State's obviously up there. Indiana's done really well, but those blue blood schools in the Big Ten have always been elite defensive teams. But you look at other conferences, they have, they're putting up 85. It's 85, 90 every single game in the conference play. I feel like in SEC, Big 12, I feel like can get like that too. Big 10's really when you look at mid-February, I mean, there's so many games that are just like low 60s. Mm-hmm. No one's scoring. It feels like everyone's hurt, like those type of matchups, which is hard to watch sometimes.
Right. Yeah. I think they'll probably be better suited to handle those things, but they're not very deep would be the first the first concern. But still, to get that win over Creighton and Omaha, I mean, that's significant. That at the very least probably buys Fred another year in Lincoln, which I think, because that's market improvement, they've not been good. And it's like they needed to make a significant leap going into this year for him to get another one. The one good thing for him is now they have a new football coach, so nobody gives a shit about basketball in Lincoln right now. They could have probably been as bad as anybody could ever care to see, and still would have kept his job.
I don't agree with that. They have
no, and I know what you're gonna say. Well, they always got fans out there, and you're right. But that's like the 15,000 Nebraska basketball fans on the planet. Those are the biggest 15,000 Nebraska basketball fans on the planet. And then you know how many people are watching on TV? Not very many.
I'm a big fan of Nebraska. I love the school.
I'm clipping that right there.
I am. I love this. That was one of my favorite places to play, dude. I had so much fun playing there. The arena was always sold out. I think their facilities are some of the best in the country. I don't know how they don't get better teams. I really don't. Better recruits, I should say.
Man, you got to pull up to a game there and watch and go to the rail yard across the street sometime.
I heard that's a cool area. I mean, the arena's there. There's bars all the way around. It just looks like a great place to enjoy a college environment.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, last couple things on college basketball. You have a new rival, Seth Davis from CBS and The Athletic. You guys now appear to be arch nemesis or arch enemies. Tell us about your beef with Seth. Why are you holding this aggression against him?
It's not even aggression. These media members, dude, I feel like they're just, I don't know how they get to the position they are, because some of them, first of all, are just a bunch of weirdos. Mm-hmm. I've experienced that firsthand. And two, they're so biased, and they have individual people they want to keep in their circle. They don't want to speak out about. They don't want to step on toes. They want to keep their connections right. They don't want to say this because this could get them in trouble with this person. And honestly, like, I'm sick and tired of it. Like, I went after Greensburg a couple years ago for talking shit about me for what I said about the NCAA. I mean, Seth Davis is another one that's, I'm like, this guy's just an idiot. He talked shit about Fran McCafferty the night before the game, or the night before the incident with Chris Beard, about him getting a technical in a college basketball game. And then he tweets something like that in his opinion on it. And then the next morning, he just says nothing the whole day. I don't even think he still has said anything about Chris Beard getting arrested.
I was going to say, there's a lot of people who get paid to give opinions on college basketball that never gave an opinion on that.
Exactly.
And I found that very interesting on Monday. And don't get me wrong, I get it. You want to take some time and you want to get some more facts and some things like that. But, man, I thought it was tough luck that there was nobody out there that was ready to give an opinion on that deal from a national perspective. Yeah,
it's disgusting that we treat. But
I even listened to a podcast, and basically all they did was give the facts on there, and I was like, man, like, you guys. Apparently, they're all friends with Chris Beard. I guess I didn't know that. Like, that's kind of the vibe that I got out of it. Was it's like, man, Chris Beard's got a lot more friends in the industry than what I guess I realized.
It's just their power. There's a lot of power hungry people out there, man. And now that I've experienced it firsthand, like getting interviewed by some of these guys and knowing them in their work profession. But now, like, I'm on the outside, I get to like kind of know people more on the personal level, and interviewing people myself and meeting some people and talking to people about people. Like, I'm just like, this is some people, dude, are just ridiculous in how they act and how they go about their profession. It's disgusting.
You're talking about me, aren't you?
Yeah, that was a direct shot at Jared. I am sick and tired of this and how he handles not only me but other people around him in his profession, and I'm officially out.
I was gonna say I heard you calling everybody weirdos, and I was like, he's talking about me. That's all I heard in my mind. I was like, he's talking about me. That's exactly what
No, but you are a weirdo. You pulled this for those that are listening. He pulled a old man. My back hurts.
Man, get the hell out of
So
here. My
he
back
didn't want
did
to
hurt.
go. He didn't
Back
want to go
still
out
hurts.
with me. He didn't want to go out with me this weekend in Des Moines, and he said his back was hurting. And
I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry that I have to spend too much time carrying the team.
Ooh.
My back starts to hurt every once in a while around here. All right.
Okay.
No, but I'm with you, dude. Like, don't get me wrong. I love what I do, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But man, there are times where I feel like there are people in the business who get way too wrapped up in who they're friends with and who they're not friends with, and like.
And that's not.
I don't take it serious. I guess I don't take it serious like that.
Yeah.
You know, this is my job. Like, and I get it, and like I love what I do. But man, it's just basketball. You know, it's just football. Like, it's not life and death to me. I guess I don't think of it that way, or I've been able to detach myself from it to that perspective, to where like when you write something or you give an opinion, or like you're not worried about whether or not like you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. You're doing your job as long as you're being fair and like telling the truth, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be a dickhead about it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying be an asshole, but it's like, if you have an opinion about basketball or about football, then it's your job to like give those opinions, you know. And I do feel like, you know, I think that a lot of people in college basketball have a lot of friends, and they like when they go to the tournament and go to coaches convention and all that kind of stuff, you like to have a beer with those guys, and you like to sit down and you like to talk ball or like to gossip or whatever it may be. And you forget sometimes, like, oh, I'm supposed to be covering these people, not being their friend, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's just not like that's just not media professions alone. I feel like that's the problem with a lot of people. Like they're just using people to make their lives better, not to, first of all, just actually be friends with someone, or two, just wanting to hang around and like not use someone for what they do and what they're about. And I'm just tired of it. I mean, I know I'm still young and I haven't really experienced the real world yet, but I don't know. It's frustrating and disgusting in my opinion. And I always like, thing I always thought about Jared too is like, some of these people, they just don't stand by anything. They use these people, and they want to be stay friends with them, and so they continue to get, you know, sources and insider information. And obviously that happens in other professions too. But like, how are you gonna like live? Like, you don't stand for anything in your life. Like, you don't have an opinion on anything. Your opinion can be wrong. Like, there's nothing wrong with a wrong opinion, but you're not gonna stand by anything you believe in. Like,
well, that's where I come from. It's like, if I said something on this podcast and like you know, completely hypothetical. If I found out that like Chris Beard listened to the podcast and Chris Beard was pissed at me about it, you know what I'd say? Chris Beard has bigger things to worry about than whether or not he's mad at you, you know,
right?
Or whether or not I'm saying what I'm saying on a podcast. Like, you've got bigger things to worry about, my man, you know? And again, it's like, it's just from my perspective, it's not personal. The Chris Beard one, like, you're towing the line of like, there's some serious personal questions to be asked here, but like, when it's just talking basketball, it's not personal. Like, it's just business, dude. Like, it's just part of it, you know? And that's where I was just like, I was turned off by, because that was a huge basketball story. That's a huge deal. It's one of the top five teams. It's one of the biggest brands in college athletics.
Yeah.
And no one is there to give an opinion on the fact that not only does Chris Beard, has he been arrested for this, but that he's had someone on his team playing, being charged with something similar. Like, what? No one's sitting here and being like, man, there's maybe. Everybody says we need to wait for more facts to come out. That's what they say.
Guy literally got arrested. Like, it's disturbing. It is really disturbing. But that's just everything we're alluding to about society as a whole. It's a use world now.
It's just protecting. selective
nothing.
protection for people, because
Yeah,
there's a lot of coaches out there right now that the same thing could happen to them and they're not getting the same treatment.
right. And no one's real anymore. No one stands by anything. It's just I if I yeah, I don't ever want to be like that. I want to continue to be real, like what we're doing with us too. Like I like how we just talk on here and talk about anything we want, and we have opinions, and like your opinions are different than mine. We still talk, and we're still friends. But people, man, like they go on interviews, like they act like friends. They act like they're close with these guys, these coaches, these players. Like, bro, you're just using this dude. Like, let's be honest. You don't have a ounce in you that actually supports this guy or wants him to do great. And that still goes along with any profession in the world. I feel like there's people like that all over. It's damaging, dude, especially when you're around those type of people.
Well, and it's just like it's like where you have to toe a line of like, how much are you an observer of what's happening and how much are you a participant in what's happening? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a reporter, I feel like theoretically you're supposed to just be a observer of what's happening,
Right.
And it's like, you want the people around you to succeed. Like, don't get me wrong. I went to Iowa State. Like, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody that I don't want Iowa State to win. I work for a website that's called Cyclone Fanatic. Like, I want Iowa State to win because it makes business better. It makes my life easier. And it's just generally a good thing. And there's good people around Iowa State. So it's like, you want them to win. But it's like, at the same time, you have to tell the truth too. When it comes time when your coach goes 0-18 in the Big 12 and it comes time to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, hey, we need to move on. Like, you can't be afraid to say that because somebody is your friend,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I would respect the hell out of someone like that too. Like that if I was a coach and I had a struggling year, like I'm respecting, obviously I'm going to appreciate like good stories that come out too, because that's much needed in a world that we live in as well. But I don't want to live in this foo-foo world that everything's great and I'm not getting criticized. Like I want the truth out. Like I want to know, like, you be known like Chris Beard like should not be coaching that night. He should have been suspended right from the get-go, and he should not have came down to the final hours of the game. Like that, is that too much to ask for?
No. That's the absolute baseline. That's the baseline. Yeah. That should have been in the very first statement that they put out at 8:00 in the morning. Like, he's not going to coach tonight. And that would have saved them a lot of headaches throughout the day where people are wondering, is this guy going to really fucking coach tonight? You know? And it's like, you don't want to be the people that made people wonder if the guy who got arrested for beating up his fiance the night before is going to be on the sideline the next night. That don't make any sense. You don't want to be those people.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be the ones that protect them either, because history does not look fondly upon those people, I believe.
Right. But I think that's just like a perfect example. I know that we tied Seth Davis and Chris Beard in together, but obviously they're not the same person. I'm not accusing Seth Davis of doing that stuff, but
I just think it's telling.
It's telling a lot about not only the media profession, I feel like, but a lot of people that are just in it for the wrong reasons. And that's something I will never stand by, is be in a job or be in a profession and stand by something I don't believe in. I don't truly love the people around me, and I'm just using people. Like, you're never going to be happy with your life. I don't care what amount of money you make or do. That is just absurd. And I pray for those people that they find the guidance, because that's incredibly damaging. I really do. I'm not even joking. Like that.
Prayers up for Seth Davis. Prayers up for him, man.
But it's just everyone. Like, that shit pisses me off. That is one of my biggest pet peeves is people like that. Because the world we live in, dude, like that, there's too much of that to be like.
Just comes off as arrogant. Like, there's just a lot of arrogance, and I think to be a national media member, you have to have a pretty significant amount of arrogance. Right. That's like just what I've been able to pick up on. It's like, how many people that cover this stuff on a national scale feel like real people? There's literally jokes about whether or not John Rothstein is a robot. I know you did a podcast with him, but it's like, the man acts like a robot, does not act like a real person.
And I don't know him on a personal level, but I mean, again, it goes down the line. Like, there's just some people I feel like are in it for the wrong reasons. And I'll never be behind those people, no matter how many times I say it. It frustrates the shit out of me, dude. Like,
you have an opinion on, or last thing, you have an opinion on Courtney Green?
Oh, Courtney Green. I mean, at least he stands up for something. Bad fucking calls. Speaking of bad opinion, I mean, holy shit, dude. He
I was
robbed
gonna
him.
say I already know what this is gonna be.
Oh my god. You gotta give him credit. Like he's standing by his way of officiating, I guess you can
Yeah,
say.
I was
but-
gonna say you have to give him credit. He's consistent, and by consistent I mean consistently bad. Yeah.
There's so many bad officials out there, but man, he is his last 3 years, dude. I don't know how they still throw him out there. I feel bad. It's getting to the I feel bad for him.
I mean,
They
it's
allow him
Tommy.
to-
It's like it's the same kind of thing. Sometimes you're just like, man, why you keep giving this guy good games? You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I
Just
don't
way
know.
too
At
many
this
good
point, I don't know
officials.
what to say.
couldn't-
He fucked us at Rutgers in Piscataway last year, and he fucked Nebraska. So not on a good stretch.
You think it was personal?
Honestly, dude, at this point, it might be. It might be.
He's probably officiated what thousands of basketball games, and he's got
Maybe.
beef with you. He decided he's got beef with you.
I don't. The thing that's too, like, he's a good guy. Like I've talked to him off the court. Like he's a nice guy, but man, is he a poor fucking official.
Man, Corey, you're awesome, but fuck, dude, you just cannot make it right. You cannot make the right call.
Well, it's just like little Tommy,
Uh,
like on your little league team. Like he's a great kid, right? Like
Yeah.
he's nice to everyone. He's a really great kid.
Oh,
Like you want to be
jeez.
nice back to him, but bro, you can't hit the fucking ball. You're not in the lineup. We can't put Timmy in the lineup. Timmy doesn't deserve to be in the lineup, Jared.
Timmy can't keep getting Elite Eight games
Bro,
or whatever.
Timmy can't field a ground ball. He
Yeah.
can't call. He can't call the right call when the game's on the line. That's
Oh,
what it
man.
comes down to.
That's funny. All right, I knew we couldn't sign on without you having at least some words for the officials.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Talk to you guys again next week.